The lore and expansive extended material regarding the Star Wars franchise is constantly growing and expanding with each passing year, adding more and more context to old stories and continually adding more content into the vast web of characters and relationships. Recently on the channel, we discussed how retcons eventually become both necessary as well as inevitable, as a 40-year-old franchise continually needs to adapt and evolve over time. In that specific case, we discussed Palpatine's true motives for turning Anakin to the dark side, but this is far more than only a case of a canonical material being retroactively corrected in accordance with new content. This is a major change to an event that happened just a few years ago in Star Wars canon revolving around Thrawn and Ezra, and the implications that it will have on the Ahsoka series. So stick with us, weary travelers of the galaxy, and let's discuss another one of these retcons and how it not only corrects old lore, but it also is set to play a major role in some of Star Wars' most prominent upcoming projects in the coming years. Specifically, we will be talking about Grand Admiral Thrawn, the principal antagonist of Star Wars Rebels animated series, and the current state of both his history and that of Jedi Padawan Ezra Bridger. At the end of Rebels, Ezra and Thrawn confront one another on the latter's ship during the Imperial siege on Lothal during the waning days of the Empire. Ezra uses what are known as Purrgil, which are immensely powerful whale-like creatures with the ability to jump into hyperspace in order to transport Thrawn and his forces into the depths of the unknown region, being taken with them in a moment of heroic self-sacrifice. While this was meant to be a triumphant liberation of Ezra's homeworld and a fitting bookend for the Rebels series, it was not in fact meant to be the final farewell to either character, instead simply a stepping off point into their larger story. So how is this event retconned in recent materials? And what effect will this have on the Ahsoka series? First, we must understand a bit more about Grand Admiral Thrawn and the Chiss Empire from which he originates. Unbeknownst to many, the Chiss actually originate from an unexplored sector of the unknown regions, limiting their contact with the greater Star Wars galaxy as a whole and living in relative obscurity. This has led them to be known as a mystery to many, with very few individuals truly understanding the inner workings of their culture and society, let alone coming into direct contact with them. For the bulk of the Rebels series, it is commonly understood that Thrawn was a member of the Chiss race. However, many believe him to be a defector who joined the Imperial regime after his exile from the greater Chiss society. And though this idea was not explored in depth, this misunderstanding is where the retcon lies. The recent release of the Thrawn Ascendancy book trilogy has given avid Star Wars fans a closer look at the origins and inner workings of Thrawn as a character, as well as insight regarding the Chiss society and the scraps of canonical knowledge regarding the unknown regions that we have come to learn about. It's also important to note that the novels have in fact been confirmed to be canon, though novels have a particular affinity to fluctuate between canon and Legends material in Star Wars. We will, however, be exploring the ramifications of these events as they are set to pertain to the future of Star Wars material under the presumption that these novels will remain canon at least until the release of future projects in question. In the third entry, Lesser Evil, it was revealed that Thrawn was not in fact a defector, but was specifically sent to infiltrate the ranks of the Empire in order to study their inner workings and methodologies, be it to assess them as a threat to the Chiss or potentially, according to some theories, even an ally. The unknown regions are home to various hazards that pose immediate threats to weary travelers, and given the drastic lack of knowledge and prominent information pertaining to the Dark region, very few characters are capable of venturing into the unknown regions with a significant semblance of security or safety. The Chiss, however, understand this well, and have come to find out that the most reliable way to navigate the darkness of the unknown regions is via the use of a Force-sensitive companion. The Chiss use a tactic known as skywalking, which entails using a partner with a particular affinity for connecting with the Force in order to safely navigate the dangers of the unknown regions. This means that upon their disappearance, Ezra Bridger is perhaps the most qualified candidate to pioneer the depths of the unknown, and it's even implied that Thrawn not only knew this, but intentionally puppeteered the events of the Rebels finale in order to find his way back home with Ezra by his side. The ramifications that this would have on both characters would most likely to be seen throughout the course of the upcoming Ahsoka series, though there have been several theories circulating the claim that Thrawn is a key entity behind various Imperial factions that continue to wreak havoc across the galaxy after the defeat of the Empire, potentially drawing him into latter seasons of The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett as a major antagonist, and a more overarching antagonist of the Disney Plus shows. One of the most common theories is that in order to navigate the depths of the unknown regions, Ezra and Thrawn developed an uneasy alliance in order to ensure each other's survival. And while this likely took a considerable amount of time, it's important to remember that roughly 5 years have passed between the events of Rebels and The Mandalorian, where Ahsoka seems to still be unsuccessful in locating Ezra or Thrawn. However, she does appear to be closing in on the Grand Admiral. If Ezra's force sensitivity can allow him to navigate the most dangerous aspects of the unknown regions, and Thrawn's origins give him insight into the regions, then they may decide that a temporary alliance is the best way to ensure their respective survivals. We know that as of the events of The Mandalorian, which again take place roughly 5 years after the collapse of the Empire, that Grand Admiral Thrawn has likely been sighted, seeing as Ahsoka asks the magistrate by name where to find him, indicating that his whereabouts are known by a few key figures. It is hypothetically possible that Ahsoka will spend a considerable amount of time throughout her series tracking down the whereabouts of the Chiss Admiral, only to find that he and Ezra are no longer the adversaries that she once believed them to be. After all, if it was Thrawn's purpose to investigate the Empire, then it could be because that there was a greater threat in play, one which warranted that of the Chiss potentially scouting threats or allies to their cause. If his alliance with the Empire is not as ironclad as it was once believed, is it possible that he and Ezra may have a particular common interest that is directly related to their shared experiences in the unknown regions? If Ezra's attention is drawn to a greater threat on the horizon, something that he came to learn about during his exile, then he may decide that the unity between himself and Thrawn may be the best way to stave off the looming threat that is coming and encroaching on the galaxy and threatening the safety of his friends, drastically throwing off the course of the Ahsoka series into question, as it deviates from a quest to find Ezra and evolves into something entirely different with a far wider reaching ramifications on the galaxy as a whole. The implication that Thrawn intentionally lured Ezra into the unknown regions rather than is legitimately defeated by him could mean that he has a specific plan for Ezra and a specific purpose in isolating him from his friends, teammates, as well as his very home galaxy. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this retcon, and what do you think it means for the future of Star Wars? Would you like to see Thrawn and Ezra form an uneasy alliance in the name of survival, or do you believe that it is Thrawn, and that he will always remain an irrefutable villain for the Star Wars franchise? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this canonical change and update to the Thrawn and Ezra situation. As always, my friends, may the Force be with you, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.